Ja, okay, dann herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Folge im ChefTreff Podcast und ich freue mich heute auf ein Wiedersehen mit meiner ersten Gründung und mit dem neuen CEO von ZooPlus. Und da wir beide jetzt das Interview auf Englisch führen werden, werde ich jetzt auch auf Englisch umschalten. So I'm very much looking forward to my discussion with the new CEO of ZooPlus, and a warm welcome to Geoffroy Lefebvre.
Thank you, Sven. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, Geoffroy, I'm really super excited, and we've been working on this for quite a while. I mean, I think you're right. You're running a very tight schedule, and the moment I heard you were going to take over the position as CEO, and of course I checked you out, and then I was really wondering because you have a completely different background. So maybe you just can share who are you, and then we start.
Of course. Well, in today's world, it's impossible to hide. So
yeah.
It's also a pleasure to be here, given your special relationship to ZooPlus. And so I joined the company in November 2022. So it's been almost a year and a half now. And I do come from a very different environment, which is the luxury goods world. And maybe if I give a little bit of background.
Yes, please.
I'm French. I grew up in France, and I was trained as an engineer. Mm-hmm. I studied organic chemistry, which didn't take me anywhere, and computer science, where I actually started my career as a developer. And I joined McKinsey in 2004. Did my round in consulting for a number of years. Then realized that if I didn't move, I'd probably end up my life as a consultant, which is not a bad idea, but probably not the most exciting thing either. And I'd always had this childhood passion for mechanical watches. And then if you want to work in mechanical watches, Richemont is probably the place to be. And I was actually following the company's development because it's a listed business. Reading interviews of the management, looking, of course, at all the product issues. Back then, Basel World was a very big thing, which was like the kind of international trade show for watches. I was lucky enough that my parents took me to Basel once when I was probably 15. And there was another smaller trade show in Paris called Montres et Collections, Watches and Collections. That took place 3 years in a row, probably 90, 91, 92. And of course, I went there with empty backpack, came back with catalogs. So the love story with watches is a long one. And I eventually, found my way into Richemont in 2011. I joined as chief of staff to the CEO of Richemont back then.
That's a pretty good spot to start, right?
Yeah, and a funny story as well, because at McKinsey, when you start growing up, you become one of the old guys, and it was the first time I was working with somebody who was the age of my parents, but a really memorable experience, an amazing boss, an amazing leader, a mentor ultimately, and a person who guided me through my first steps at Richemont. I was eventually appointed industry director for the group, so manufacturing the components that come into the watches of the different maisons of Richemont. And then one day, which was kind of 3 years after I joined, he pops into my office and says, okay, now you need to leave Richemont headquarters and you need to go into a maison. Maison is the name that we give to the different brands that sit under the Richemont umbrella. And I was almost kind of, free to choose. And the best move was to move into operations. So that's, the continuation of manufacturing, supply chain, product development. And for me, the dream maison at that point in time was Vacheron Constantin. Vacheron Constantin is the oldest watch manufacturer that's been continuously operating since it was created in 1755. Okay, wow. And if you love, beautiful watches, complicated mechanical objects, Vacheron is really the place to be. So I had a great time there for a couple of years. And that's when there was, like in those big companies like Richemont, kind of a big wind of change, management change. And a few people from my generation were appointed to CEO positions. And that's when I joined Gégère Lecoultre, then Baume & Mercier as a CEO. And in 2019, I was called back into HQ by the new CEO, who's a person who had been at Richemont for a long time, who I knew as well, and who, out of all things, wanted me to help a team of lawyers and financiers close the deal, which was the joint venture between Alibaba and Net-a-Porter. Net-a-Porter is a luxury fashion retail platform that is still owned by Richemont. And the idea was to do the development of Net-a-Porter in China. Alibaba was deemed to be the best entry point. So I took my my backpack or whatever back from Baume & Mercier
with lots of watches inside.
No, a reasonable amount, let's say. And I took it back to the Richemont headquarters, where I had grown for the first part of my Richemont career, and became the chief digital officer of the group, with this big mission, which was to close that deal. It took us probably 6 months. Very interesting, because completely new world, digital distribution of luxury goods in China. I knew China pretty well from my Vacheron, Gégère, and Baume & Mercier years. Still, I probably spent an awful amount of time in Hangzhou, which, looking back, was of course the right thing to do for that business. Was probably not the greenest thing I ever did in my life, given the number of flights I had to take. But I met lots of interesting people. Was confronted to this behemoth, which is Alibaba, which is a company that's unique and of course then very different from Richemont, from anything I'd seen in my previous life as a consultant. And ultimately we ended up closing this deal, which opened the doors for Net-a-Porter in China, and which somehow got me closer to Net-a-Porter, and ultimately to get the job as chief executive of Yoox Net-a-Porter Group, which is the entity within Richemont that hosts 4 fashion platforms. Yoox.com, which is a discount off-season fashion business. And Net-a-Porter, luxury fashion for women. Mr. Porter, which is the pendant of Net-a-Porter for men. And the Outnet, which is the kind of discount channel for off-season products that come out of Net-a-Porter. So pretty big digital business, pure e-commerce. And I stayed there for a couple of years until the calling for ZooPlus came.
Okay, so that's a cool, really cool journey, and I really think that from the outside perspective, sometimes everybody wonders like why someone with your background then moves to a completely different industry, whereas I think that there are some things you can deploy and you can leverage, even though the products are different, the customer behavior is different, right? So what are the things that when you started back in 2022 at ZooPlus were the ones that you could pull out of your backpack and just put it to work?
Yeah, it's pretty useful for me to say why I joined ZooPlus in the first place. Yeah. And then, where I could see that there were potentially transferable skills or ideas into ZooPlus. So kind of a quick personal parenthesis.
Please.
I'm a father of 4. My kids are, the youngest one is 13, the oldest one is 20 now. And I'm a pet parent of 3 dogs. I have 3 sizes, 3 different breeds. I have the big Labrador, the medium Border Terrier, the small Chihuahua, and they're called Vader, Leia, and Yoda. So I guess you can guess the affiliation. Yeah. Voilà. And Vader and Leia are 11 years old. So I've actually grown up with dogs in our family. And when I was old enough and had enough space to get my own dogs, we got Vader and Leia. Yoda joined the group 3 years ago, and. So very fond of dogs, very special relationship with our animals. Also, the fact that I had been feeding dogs back then for 9 years and had never heard of ZooPlus.
Okay.
Coming from France, which is currently one of our largest markets, where ZooPlus, does a lot of business and has more than 1 million customers in the country, not having heard of it, and then realizing, okay, 2 very important blue chip private equities bought into this company. There must be a lot of potential. And also, from my luxury background, there must be some things that are transferable. And as I joined ZooPlus and started to get acquainted with the business and with our customers, there are indeed a few parallels with the luxury world. I'd probably name 2. First of all, it's an environment, the pet business, which is under a big wave of premiumization. And by premiumization, it's how much people are getting ready to spend for their pet, both on food, where food is getting incredibly, complex, rich in its offering, varied, organic, non-organic, different types of proteins, etc. But also in the world of accessories, and with then great ideas that you inherit from the online luxury world. To transfer to accessories. One example, we used to run this thing at Net-a-Porter and Mr. Porter, which is called What's In. So every week you get new assortment, because that's how fashion works. You get deliveries of new items, and you present to your customers, okay, here are the novelties for this week. Of course, the world of fashion, there's lots of people who are very interested, who are fashionistas, who are chasing the latest item, etc. I'm pretty sure that we can do the same thing in dog accessories, because now we see that people who buy accessories, they don't just buy a commodity, a leash or a harness or a bed. They want to buy something that fits with their home, that fits with their pet, that fits with the personality of their pet, or the personality that they think their pet has, or that they give to their pet. So there is this big wave, and it's a bit irrational, but it is indeed something that is driving the market, and that we're seeing. Probably the second thing is around customer service, and quite banal, but the luxury world is known for outstanding customer service, because how otherwise do you get to sell products that people don't need to those people, and there's many things that I learned from my years within watch brands, within Yoox Net-a-Porter, that are indeed transferable to the way that we serve our customer, and with the peculiarity in the pet space that the customer is not the end user. So from that perspective, it's probably closer to the world of babies. Where parents buy something that their kids are going to use, and to some extent, I'm sure you've seen, and your auditors have seen some of those, snippets that we come across on Instagram of how typically parent and pet relationship is developing in countries like China, for instance, where there are extremes in the bond, and people will go to lengths for their pet. And which is indeed a trend that we're seeing in the market.
Okay. Who is still the decision maker when it comes to buying pet supplies and pet food? Is it still the household leader, which used to be the female part? Like has that changed?
So it has probably become more diversified and a bit more complicated. First of all, there's a lot of influence within the family circle, but also outside. As the world of accessories has developed, now you see an accessory that another pet has on the street, in the park, and of course you want the same, or you want something similar. Kids are a big influence to the parents, but if we were to segregate our purchaser base, I would say it's really 2 things. It's the sophisticated person that has that very developed and visible bond with their pet, and that will want to invest in accessories, will want to invest in comfort, etc., and even beyond in what you could call pet fashion or pet luxury to some extent. And then you have the commodity buyer who needs to feed the pet. And usually in a family, you have both. If I use myself as an example, I'm the one who buys food on ZooPlus. My wife is the one who buys accessories on ZooPlus as well.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, because you mentioned the transaction in 2021 with Hellman Friedman and EQT, the valuation back then was like 3.5 billion, and the revenue was like 2, so it was like a 1.5 something, 1.7 like multiple. When you look at and everybody was questioning it, of course, and in hindsight, everybody thinks like they overpaid. Most probably they did, but that doesn't necessarily means that the move was incorrect, right? Because like the business is still a beautiful business. When you look at like one of my favorite charts was always like the recurring revenue numbers, and then the ones I found was like covering like 2021. I think you can look it up at Jochen's website, and I just love it. I always loved it, and even back in the days when I was working there, you could say that like 90% of like the revenue comes from repeat and returning customers. So actually, you do have kind of a perpetuum mobile where you can say like when you start the year and the 1st of January, you have 90% of the revenues from the year before. When of course you have to do your job, but still this is the well-oiled machinery, right? And that's still the case, I guess. So and when you look at the numbers again, 3.5 they paid. 2 billion was the turnover, and actually one of the numbers was for 2025 was also to reach like 3.5 something billion. That was back in the days. You don't have to comment on it, I know, but of course for me it was interesting would be to one is the perspective of the investors on the business, say like they want to come into the position to get back their money or make money. The other one is what you mentioned, and then I'd like to combine it, is when you look at like the market position, for instance, in France, like 1 million customers, you haven't heard about it, so you see the potential.
Yes.
So obviously there is huge potential to grow ZooPlus. So so what's your take on that?
Yeah, so my answer to your two questions would be around the same thing, and you coined you mentioned the word. It's about the value potential that sits behind ZooPlus, and Hellman Friedman, EQT are not your shop around the corner type of PE. They're very established companies, and when I joined, I assumed, and now I know that they knew what they were doing. You mentioned revenue multiples. In the growth story of ZooPlus, and that's probably a difference to what happened previously. And by the way, I just want to stop one moment to pay tribute to what Cornelius has built, because it is an amazing company. It's as any company that has become of a certain size, it's not an easy ship to steer, but like you say, there is an amazing recurring business. There's amazing metrics in the world of e-commerce when it comes to conversion, when it comes to customer acquisition costs, etc. And we benefit from this. We also develop, our way forward also on that basis. But Cornelius has done, and the teams, of course, have done an amazing job of taking that company from, nowhere when you guys, because you were part of the group, founded it, to the acquisition. Now it's our job, it's my job, and the job of my teams to develop it further. Probably one difference between pre-acquisition and post-acquisition is the growth story that we are writing right now is not just a top-line growth story. It's also a profitability story. Okay. And that's a very important element because I think that valuations for 5 years down the road are going to be increasingly weighted towards bottom of the P&L multiples rather than just the top of the P&L. However, we need to continue to be a growing business, to be attractive for valuation. And one metric of this is not just the growth of our top line, but is our proven ability to continue to attract new customers. And there's a number of examples out there of companies that have grown incredibly, that have, like we did, also benefited from the bump of COVID, for which, you know, post-COVID was not forcibly easy, but that are now running into the wall of their ability to attract even more new customers every year than they did the year before. And that's the kind of death trap that we don't want to fall into. And that's why we continue to invest a lot in customer acquisition, not just money to go and get customers through search, for instance, but also other channels. And one thing that was very underdeveloped historically at ZooPlus, which is the awareness of ZooPlus as a brand. I gave the example of feeding dogs for 9 years in France, not knowing about ZooPlus. Mm-hmm. There is a big deficit of awareness today that we're working on filling.
Okay, so what is the because it's a bit more complex, at least, to say, like, if you want to grow profitably, mm-hmm. right? It's a different game than just growing the business, right?
You're right. It's a trade-off.
Yeah,
it's a trade-off. But you know, there's several ways to create profit. One is to spend less. The other one is to buy better.
Yeah,
and we're very, very much focused on the second one.
Okay, and also because we were already talking about the repeat customer cohorts and mm-hmm. And also the quality of the customers you attract to the business, right?
Yes.
I think that's one of the main features.
And so for this, you know, looking forward, there's a number of things that we are developing that did not exist in the or not all of them in the ZooPlus playbook previously. So we've had an app for a while now. We've been working for the past year and a half on really developing the penetration of this app. So the number of our customers who switch from desktop or mobile into the app. The app offers a much better quality of experience. Offers now gamification. We're starting to get into this as well. So it's also a much more fun customer experience, and allows us to keep our customers closer to us versus when people shop from their desktop, typically, where they are one Google Chrome bar click away from leaving the website. The second one is around the topic of loyalty and customer loyalty, which historically has been developed with ZooPlus in the form of a saver plan, is something that we're continuing to aggressively push, but we want to change in the near future. There's a lot of product and technology work that sits behind this into a much more comprehensive loyalty program. And finally, the new element is the subscription program. Pet food is typically a type of product where you can get your customers to subscribe. And that's something that we've launched in November last year, and that we're monitoring every week the pickup of, and it's so far exceeding our expectations. So mm-hmm. These are the ways by which we want to create much more customer stickiness in the future.
Okay. So then, like, ramp it up even higher than above the 90%, or is it?
For sure.
Yeah, and also the customer lifetime value then will increase.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and I mentioned earlier, we need also to continue to fuel the pump. Yeah. Because just retention at some point plateaus. Mm-hmm. We measure, one important factor in the measure of retention is purchase frequency. And let's take an example. If your customers purchase 4 times per year, and through various means like getting them into the app, mm-hmm. getting them a loyalty plan, getting them to subscribe, you increase this to 5 and then to 6. At some point, the pet only eats this much. Yes. And what we want to do with this is prevent cross-shopping. So people who shop with ZooPlus and another retailer, we want that share of wallet to stay with us. But we need to continue to fuel what internally we call the hydraulics of the customer. So continuing to get the new customers, and this is also by remaining attractive, by extending our assortment as well. We're launching a marketplace towards the end of this year. This will be an amazing boost to our accessories assortment. Right now, we've got pretty much all the food minus one or two brands that you can find in the in Europe at least. In accessories, we still have a pretty good way to go, and we know that new customers come predominantly from buying accessories and then convert into food.
Yeah, that's I mean, reminds me of back in the old days.
I'm sure it does.
I think no, we were very number crunchy. I think as you said in a different interview, I think with Welt, that we always like, and especially Cornelius was very data nerdy, and I remember that we figured out very early that one of the leopard cat trees were one of the order triggers for first-time customers, and then you just lure them into the whole universe, right? And then get them to buy also food and stuff.
Well, but again, it's become an increasingly competitive world as well, offline and online. Of course, we build our predictions also on the fact that we expect online penetration to grow. It has not been the case, or let's say less been the case than we anticipated over the past couple of years. So we've had to be inventive and find things to compensate. But again, we are ZooPlus. We are the number one online. We don't just want to preserve this position. We want to use this position to get even better. And even better, the one thing we always have in mind is our customers. So we're actually a bunch of people at ZooPlus on a mission to build the pet destination for those pet parents, where they can find everything that they need for their pet to make the pet's life amazing and to make their own life easy.
Okay, and the marketplace approach is now like basically head-on-head with like the Amazons or like Temu of this world, or is that how you want to curate it, or
exactly? Okay. So and that's not the former boss of YNAB speaking. YNAB was a very, very curated place. Because take Net-a-Porter for instance. If you are not able to prove to the brands that you're not tampering with prices, that you're not, decreasing the value proposition of the overall site, they will never sell to you. And that's why at Net-a-Porter, the curation of the collection was mandatory.
Utmost mandatory.
Plus, the value added then of going to Net-a-Porter is we had merchandisers whose job was to pair a Valentino product with Gucci shoes and with a Moncler jacket or whatever, and to create styles that people would buy into. At ZooPlus, we don't want to create an Amazon marketplace in the sense that you or I tomorrow could just log in, create our store, and start offering products. Because we want to control the customer experience. We want to make sure, again, that people will find at ZooPlus things that are the right things for their pet. The right things means a consistent assortment, means right pricing, means great offers at the moment in time when it matters, and also the possibility to be exposed to things that they hadn't thought of in terms of typically pairing accessories with other accessories, etc. So it's going to be curated is probably not the right word, but we will control the sellers on the marketplace. Okay. That's, by the way, a good way of mastering also our progression in that space, and of making sure that everything that is sold on ZooPlus in terms of quality, in terms of availability, is going to create and to be conducive to a great customer experience.
When you look at numbers, like the SKUs you currently have on offer is like
let's say it's around 15,000.
Yes, and where you want to go?
And with the marketplace and also the growth of our 1P business, so the items that we buy to sell, we probably want to be in the order of magnitude of, let's say, 35, 40, 45,000 in 5 years.
Okay, wow. That's impressive. So, okay, we have Marketplace 1 for growth, like new customer growth. And then, of course, you have to conquer the French market. So, like internationalization, right? So, how many countries are you at currently?
We're present in 30 countries today. Okay. And but right now, market expansion in terms of, let's launch the Middle East or let's launch China is not on the agenda. There is so much to do already in the countries where we are present, also by, again, developing the awareness of ZooPlus as a destination. And again, that's probably, the parallel I can make with my previous experience. Yoox Net-a-Porter was selling the world's most amazing brands in terms of fashion items. Yet you had to invest in, why would people go shop at Net-a-Porter rather than go shop at a competitor? It's pretty much the same situation here, and the shopping opportunities are as diverse as they were in fashion. And the fact that we run our portfolio of own brands, as you well know, but none of those is actually called ZooPlus. Means that we need to do also a supplementary effort to get ZooPlus as a name to be known, to be identified as the trusted destination for the pet parent, and ultimately the place where you can find everything easily at an attractive price.
Yeah. I think that was the rationale back when we started the own brand portfolio. And I had great fun moments yesterday evening when I was crawling your site, and I saw all the brand names. I don't know, we either registered or like Rocco and Katessi and Cosma and Andrea, who's also still used to be like the CMO for a long time, and I worked still closely with her on certain projects. So, and that was great fun, and I always felt like it was a smart move. But then now you say like, and I had a hard time to really identify all the brands that belong to you guys. So what's the idea, to have like an umbrella brand above it? So
we're not going to call our brands ZooPlus. I think,
but to make it point it more out, or just
it's probably more a matter of how do we defragment our portfolio of own brands. We have many right now, and how do we focus on probably the top 4 or 5 winners. Own brands, they represent let's say 18 to 20% of our food business right now, and when we compare it to some of our competitors, there's a huge space for us to grow. The great thing about our own brands, and I'm not being chauvinistic, they are amazing products. First of all, so they're products that are well invented in terms of ingredients, in terms of recipes, that are well designed, they really look nice, and that are priced very appropriately. So then our game is to get more and more of our customers into our own brands. And back to what we were discussing around retention and frequency, that's also one of the mechanisms. But again, we're fighting against other suppliers of ours who've invested millions, hundreds of millions in awareness. So that's also a job that we're doing right now.
I can relate to that, and still, I mean, of course, it's a margin machine, right, for the business as well, because you control the margin and the rebates and discounts you give, and which is also very nice. When you look at the market, and the German perspective is always like ZooPlus and Fressnapf. Okay, that's one game. And I think Jochen wrote about it that Fressnapf is still 10 years behind when it comes to the numbers of the pure online success story. I think
there was an article recently.
I don't know, like 2013 ZooPlus turnover was 400 million, and I think the Fressnapf numbers were 400 million in an online business, like in 2023. So that's roughly the 10 years gap. But my view would be, rather than looking across the pond, like looking at what Chewy is doing, and they're like still public, the numbers are there. So they're turning over 11 billion in a bigger market. But what was interesting to me was that they actually make a significant portion of the turnover in health. So with like drugs and OTC products, like veterinary products. How do you look at this?
So first of all, the US and Europe are very different markets when it comes to regulation, typically. So entry into us selling prescription medicine, for instance, is much more difficult, and in some countries today impossible, versus what you have in the US. And by the way, we operate in a more complex market, 30 countries. it's not 30 different currencies, but it's not just one currency. It's not 30 different languages, but it's not one language. There's regulation, there's duties, import, etc. Take Brexit, for instance, that's completely turned the UK market upside down. So in as much as we operate in the same space, which is pet, there are structural differences in terms of the markets in which we operate, where we can do things and not do things versus the US. However, health and wellness is not just prescription medicine from vets. There's actually a much broader category from antiparasitics to real wellness products. One example, which might sound surprising to some of your auditors, will be CBD-based products for cats in particular. And those are incredibly popular right now. So there's a whole space that we're progressively entering right now. But if you take Chewy Pharmacy, there is right now a big part of this, which is, for the moment, not possible for us to replicate in Europe.
Okay, and okay. I mean, I wasn't really aware of it. Thanks for sharing. So, but still, I'd like to dwell on like what other services could you add or are you working on, which are not only product based.
Yes. When we look at the entire wheel of what a pet parent needs, there's, like you just said, not just food and accessories. There is what I mentioned around health and wellness, around specific products. There are services, typically vet consultation. There are services like insurance, services like everything that has to do with taking care of your pet, walking your pet, pet sitter, etc. Those are on our radar, I would say, right now. And probably the easiest entry point to offering the full range of services will be through this initiative that we have ongoing around health and wellness. And right now we're working with suppliers to get more and more assortment of different health and wellness types of products on board. The marketplace obviously will help for this, and this is then a natural segue into something which gets us closer to the quote unquote medical space around being able to either broker a vet consultation or even offer a vet consultation ourselves. By the way, this is something, as you know, we're a very creative company. We pilot a huge number of things, and today we do already offer in 2 markets vet consultations online. There is, you pointed it out as well, a difference in terms of maturity between Europe and the US. And right now, what we're seeing is versus the experience of a Chewy, for instance, the market is not entirely ready to be doing a full vet consultation online. However, we as we've piloted it, we've seen positive and negative responses to the type of service that we can be offering. And of course, we look always much further than the end of the fiscal year. We look 5-10 years down the road. And again, ZooPlus, the number one, we are the place where you're going to be able to find everything that you need for your pet, and that includes things like vet consultation in the future.
Yeah. And again, I think that you are the go-to place when it comes to customer access. So like you have all the people owning pets, so why not opening up this to other people? Like you said, like you mentioned now the marketplace, like putting on other products on it, but also like if you have like someone, a veterinarian who wants to have access, actually you can even charge the guy or the girl like to go on the platform and then take a
No, absolutely, and so you can imagine the number of insurance startups, for instance, that are knocking on my door every now and then, because we have 11 million customers today. That represents probably between 15 and 20 million pets of all sorts, primarily cat and dog, but also birds, fish, even horses. And we are a big aggregator of traffic, and we are also a big manager of data. we know lots of things about our customers, which, by the way, allows us through personalization to serve them even better. And of course, this has a value for companies that would be willing to work with us. And again, we've done a number of pilots in a number of areas. The VET consultation is one example. We like to think of partnerships that will drive us further into the future.
Okay, and so the number I put out here was like the like 10% of the total addressable market was a number from like 2020, but like so we're like it's like the market size is 35 to 40 million to be expected in total of Europe, like
40 million.
Billion.
Billion. Yeah.
Billion, yes, that's correct, right? Still.
Yes.
Okay, so then everybody can do the math. If you want to have 10 or 20%, then that's what you're aiming at, right? Yes. Over the long run. Yeah. Okay. I still want to circle back to the app, because I think that's what many companies are not. From my perspective, I'm currently working on the program for this year's K5, and I'm still amazed that everybody doesn't really understand, to my knowledge, how to manage your direct customer access. So most of it's a bit like, Aldous Huxley, Brave New World, and there's the soma, like the stuff you get, like to be in this constant trance.
Yeah. I wish I had that.
No, because actually, there is a dependency, of course. If you get your customer through Google, Meta, or TikTok, then you still don't really own the customer, right? And so, what I always love is companies who work on their own way of owning the customer. With the app, okay, yes, you need an app store, but basically, but then once they're in your app, right, you own the customer relationship directly, right?
Yes. Which never prevents them from shopping around, and it's a free world. Huh?
True.
So, of course, but and the slight semantic nuance, we don't intend to own the customer, but actually to be excellent custodians of the customer relationship, and wherever that customer comes from, because yes, it's through search, Google, etc. It's also through SEO. And it's going to be increasingly through means like social media, etc. Then, there's always a reason why a customer shops with you, and unfortunately, there's always a reason why a customer at some point decides to stop shopping with you. And our job is to make sure that we provide ever a more consistent, more enjoyable, more pleasurable customer experience. The importance of the app is not just because it's a quote-unquote locked-in ecosystem, but it's actually something where we can do much more than we can do on desktop or mobile in terms of interacting with the customer. And what we notice is the conversion rate of the app is lower than what we see for desktop, for instance. But it's normal. It's because once people have the app, you expect them to interact with the app, not forcibly to shop every time they open the app. They use it for gamification, for instance. They use it to check an order, etc. And then every visit counts towards a visit, and divide your number of orders by your number of visits, and that's your conversion rate. But despite this, we're very strong believers in the app. We've invested actually a lot in continuing to develop it, and making sure that our customers transfer from whatever touch point they have into the app, because we really believe that's where they're going to get the best experience in the future.
But isn't that also a completely different game when it comes to user interface design? Because I just imagine you don't duplicate the shop, right, onto the mobile phone. So then you add new services, so you increase complexity. So how do you manage? I know that you're not the user face designer, but how do you manage to on the one hand offer more and then make it more accessible to customers within the app? So you have to strip some functions, or you put in less? Or?
First of all, there has to be still some consistency in the experience between the three touch points. Otherwise, if they're used to shopping on desktop for 2 years, and then suddenly you take them to the app and they see something completely different, most likely they're going to run away. However, inside the app, there's again much more that we can do in terms of fluidity of the experience, in terms of additional features that we can bring. One important source of traffic for ZooPlus, as you probably know, is what we call ZooPlus Magazine. And ZooPlus Magazine is a pretty comprehensive source of articles covering lots of topics around, welfare for the pet, different pet breeds, how to feed your pet, how to choose your food, etc. And it's actually when you go to Dr. Google and ask a question about pets, in many cases you will land on a ZooPlus page. When the ZooPlus page is on desktop, there is a disconnect somehow in what you see in the magazine and the possibility to go on ZooPlus and shop. People who read this information through the magazine don't realize that they're actually surfing on a website that has a community of 11 million users.
Yes.
Okay. Inside the app, there's much more that you can do in terms of interaction, in terms of social, etc., that will get people closer to also the reason why we exist, which is to make sure that you can find everything for your pet, not just the information, but also the product or the service.
All right, okay, that's cool. I mean, and fun fact again is like that what we call a magazine. Magazine is now called content marketing, and it's pretty smart that you have it. And back in the days, we always felt like, okay, it's just something we had to do to distinguish ourselves, and it only cost money.
Yes.
So and see how the view on it changed.
Absolutely.
Over time. Maybe to wrap things up, I just really would like to also still look at the one of the hot topics at the moment is like all the Chinese marketplaces, because you mentioned Alibaba with your former Net-a-Porter adventure, and now we have Shein and we have Temu pretty aggressively entering like Europe, United States, with loads of marketing money and very cheap products. And I mean, I haven't checked them out, but I can imagine they also sell pet supplies. Do you meet them in the marketplace? Are you aware of what's happening? What's your take on it, on the development?
So Temu, much more than Shein, really took the market by storm, and we see this very, very explicitly when we look at market share of online demand, even in the pet category. They did not exist before March 2023, and now they represent anywhere between 20 and 30% of the market demand for online pet accessories. So they are big, they are aggressive, they try to outcompete everybody in terms of search. Which is why, again, we want to double down on our real value proposition. Is we will be, because my point is not to comment on whether they're doing a good or bad job in marketing, probably a very good job. However, we are seeing increasing reports on the quality of the products that are being sold, on the whole approach to sustainability, etc. And that's probably something which is not great there. And again, people will come to ZooPlus because it's a trusted place. It's the place where you will have a great assortment, probably never as many SKUs as Temu because they're an ultra generalist, but you will find the quality, and the somehow the sustainability of the product, of the approach, and we're also in the pet space a pretty comprehensive assortment. So people can choose to buy accessories in one place, food in another place, service in a third place. What we aim to do is to be the convergence of all of this.
So you're doubling down on your specialty expertise.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because, again, what differentiates us from Temu or an Amazon is that we are a specialist on pet. Yeah. And, the one of the first things I did with my team when I joined was to rethink what is our vision in this world. And for a long time, we've been very focused on, doing good delivery, bringing cheap price, etc. We want to continue to do that, but if we step back, it's extremely emotional category. And none of that really was conveyed by anything that we were doing. And that's why we rallied all the troops around one vision, which is celebrating pet love every day. Pets is really about unconditional love. I don't know if you have if
I have pets. Kids, no pets.
but
that's the same.
And that's really the kind of shift that we want to take is how through our offering, our assortment, our service, our approach to the customer, we materialize that notion of pet love.
Okay. Famous last words. Thank you so much. It was really a great pleasure and a great wrap up. And I think I'm even though I'm no longer a shareholder, which is I think public knowledge because I also sold my shares in 2021. I'm still, of course, emotionally attached to the company, and I think that your value proposition is still unique. And with what you bring to the table and your team now, I think way to go. And,
very much.
I keep my fingers crossed.
Thank you so much. And like you, I'm a great nostalgic, so I can understand, and I hope it's still very strong, the attachment to ZooPlus, which is a company that you founded, and again, which operates in a very, very emotional space, whereas there's still lots and lots of things to do at the service of our customers.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Sven.
Geoffroy, thank you so much.
Thank you.